Welcome everyone to this Force Fridays session. Today we're going to talk about gesture, one of my favorite subjects. I want to dig a little deeper into gesture today and discuss what is it? Why is it? Why do we do it in the first place? What are some of the parameters around it? Are our thoughts on it aligned? Yeah, and today I think we're also going to share with you an exercise. One of the exercises that is in my force books that I used to use a long time ago. We don't use it actually that much lately, and I'm actually thinking about bringing it back more strongly because it's pretty impactful. So let's see. With that in mind, let's say hello to everyone before we get into today's subject. So how are you doing, Mrityunjay?
Doing good, Mike. How are you? How are you guys?
Hi. Yeah, doing well. Doing well. It's Friday. Another super fast week. Excuse me?
Happy 75th Force Friday.
Yes, I know. Today's our 75th birthday. Can't believe it. 75 of these meetings. And somehow you guys keep coming back. We haven't bored you yet, so that's good. I'm glad that you're here and interested listening to the three of us talk. How's it going, Swinley?
Good. Just realizing Albert is still on the loose out there. Nobody found him.
Yes, that's true. Including me. I have to go back and dig him up. I still haven't done that yet. I've been so busy, and most of you know I've moved lately, so I'm not in San Francisco area. I'm now in the Portland area, and I'm still surrounded by boxes. So it's going to be a little while till I think I have free time. But so let's get into it. Right today, we're talking about gesture. Like I said, one of my favorite subjects. Force and gesture, of course, work really, really well together, and we'll talk about why throughout today's session. So these are what I would call gesture drawings of mine. A habit I developed many years ago was to put a number next to the drawing. The number is how long the timing was of that particular drawing. So you can see there's two minutes here and there's a 5 minute here. Ironically, looking at it, I don't know how much more I really got out of that 5. There's some clothing and maybe I threw in some tone, right? She had these really big, puffy boots on, this model, and a shirt. Clothing always takes a little bit longer for me. But you look at the 2 minute on the right and man, there's a lot of anatomy and stuff that's coming out of the contours. The foot is pretty darn accurate for a 2 minute. There's lots of foreshortening and line. Look at I'm just studying my own drawing here. This drawing is probably 6 years old, I would say. And look at that line right there. That real heaviness there is because I'm thinking about how the rib cage is pushing out of the skin right there, right? And you'll notice that the back of the arm is drawn very hard, right? Because I'm thinking about the tension and strength of the back of the arm, and then the sweeping down of the forearm into the ground, right? So anyway, I just want you to see these are 2 to 5s, two 2 minute poses and one 5 minute pose, right? And what one can accomplish in a short amount of time based on the stuff we're going to talk about today. Okay. All right. And as always, feel free to ask questions, in the live chat. So, to me, I started with this idea and talking to the other guys earlier in the week, well, what is gesture drawing in the first place, right? We think we know, and I'd like to just make believe I don't, and see what's out there. What does the internet say when we ask that question, right? So this is what came back. A gesture drawing is a laying in of the action, form, and pose of a model or figure. Typical situations involve artists drawing a series of poses taken by a model in a short amount of time, often as little as 10 seconds or as long as 5 minutes. Okay, that's kind of interesting, right? Let's talk about this a little bit. First of all, it says a gesture drawing is laying in of the action. I think I agree with that. I think that I would say gesture and action to me are kind of synonymous. It's the idea of you are trying to capture action, right? That things are happening, right? And force, of course, is all about that because we're constantly talking about leading edge, right? Which comes from animations, like where are things going, which is a verb idea, right? So even just the idea of action, you could say comes back from animation, in that we are trying to, we're trying to get things to happen, right? That is very different than saying a gesture drawing is a laying in of structure. Now, it has form in there, but the point to me, and whoever wrote this, I don't even know who the author of this is, but action came first before form. I do believe in that too, by the way. I would say in that order of events. I think there are other things you can get into a gesture drawing besides these two, action and form, but that the action is part of it. So, to play devil's advocate is like, could I do a gesture drawing of a vase, right? Of an inanimate, can I do a gesture drawing of a car? I don't know, it's a good question, right? Like these are things that don't necessarily have action in them or energy or lots of flow, right? Could, I'm just saying a very normal vase. Here, I have a Warner Brothers mug sitting here, right? Like if I draw this, can I do a gesture drawing of this? My head says, oh, do you mean a sketch, right? If it did something really quickly, I could do a sketch of this. And I don't know if that's a gesture drawing of this, right? I don't think this is gestural. I can draw it with line that feels like it's going to give it some action or something. Maybe I can push it into a gesture. If I make it move and I make it like Chip in Beauty and the Beast, right? And this thing could talk and move. Sure, maybe I could make this become gestural, right? But all on its own, I don't think I would say this is gestural. So like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate to get to an answer here. And I think we're looking for action, right? Gesture is action. Does it have to have form? No, I don't think it has to have form. I think it has to have action, and action leads to other things like rhythm. I think it should balance, right? As you all know, I strongly believe that our gesture drawing should have the foundation of balance in the body. You should be thinking about gravity. You could get away with it not having any form. Now, what I noticed in this write-up is it's in two parts, and I even actually broke it down more so to show you that there's two parts. The second part is it says a typical situation. That doesn't mean always, but a typical situation is one where the drawings or poses are anywhere from 10 seconds to 5 minutes long. I would say that's actually pretty accurate when it comes to the norm. Gesture drawings usually are in a classroom setting, done from 10 seconds to 5 minutes. I would say 10 seconds, man, if I've seen that in one school in the last 15 years is a lot. Barely anybody ever does 10 seconds. All that does is make all the students go crazy, right? I normally go more like 30 seconds. I would say 30 seconds minimum to about 5 minutes. 5 minutes seems to be the cap. And we'll talk about why that is also. So there's two things going on. It's like we're after action, and the drawings are usually done very quickly, 30 seconds to 5 minutes, right? It feels like those are the two things that have to happen to make something a gesture drawing, right? Let's keep going here. What is the point of the short time duration, right? Why is it, if we're gonna say that gesture drawing is fast, which by the way, I didn't say I agree with that it has to be yet. All I'm saying is that is kind of the norm. What I typically do see is, let's say 30 seconds to 5 minutes. But if so, why is the time duration what it is? Why is it 30 seconds to 5 minutes? Why do I have students go, let's say normally for us, it's 30 seconds to 1 minute or 30 seconds to 2 minutes is kind of like the magic time, right? I was gonna say like golden hour, it's like golden minute, right? Like that's the time that you want to work in. Let's see, I'm gonna take a quick look at the chat. Casil says an abstraction of human figure to capture a moment. Yeah, I think it is some level of abstraction, right? Because if time is a restraint, you're not going to sit there and create a photo rendered image, right? And that's going to kind of get us to a slide that we're going to be coming to. Don says, what about a gesture drawing of someone who is still? So good. To me, nobody is still, quite frankly, unless I guess somebody is dead, right? And even then, I don't know if I'd say they're still, because their anatomy was built to move. So anatomically, their body still has rhythm in it, quite frankly. I know it sounds so weird, but let's do gesture drawings of corpses today, everyone. Right? That's a good. That's going to be a good upcoming good upcoming video. We'll do that for like Halloween.
Corpse gestures.
Yeah, we'll do like zombie gestures for. Why don't you guys write that down, please? Zombie gestures for the Halloween for the end of October. Yeah, the world is always in movement. Also is dealing with gravity, right? Yes, gravity should be get in there. I get stressed at anything less than 1 minute. I agree. Andrew's talking about stress. That's true. What's the difference between the rhythm and the curves in a sports car and the rhythm and curves in the figure? Obviously, a car doesn't articulate like a person, but it seems like they both have one main axis. Yeah, that's a great question that Counter Pasta is asking for. I think that you answered half of it, which is you're right. They articulate in different ways. A car is designed to be aerodynamic and to move on a set of 4 wheels. And a human is designed to walk around on 2 legs, right? And all of its anatomy is based on that function. So already there's this massive difference. A quick one, though, I would say I would add to that is that a car doesn't necessarily have rhythm. Right, we can draw a car that's got, you know, some lines on it, some really nice lines, but maybe the lines are like this, right? And it's like this, and you know, and it's got some wheels. It almost looks like a Prius, right? You'll notice it's just like a simple wedge almost. It's dynamic. It's one shape. It doesn't mean it has rhythm in it, right? And that's, I think, something that would make a big difference between a car and a human being, right? So getting back to the question, what is the point, right? Like, why even bother bringing up a time? Why not just say, hey, especially where most art education nowadays is done online, right? Well, you know, yeah, there's a lot of online education you guys are getting. You could stare at a photograph for 3 hours if you want, right? Instead of in a model session, you're a little more restrained, right? Because in a model session, you have to think about the model, right? Like the model can only sustain a pose so long. So, and you usually get more boring and more boring poses the longer the pose is, right? The longer the duration is, because they can't withstand that, right? So it's something you got to think about. I think the short time allows you or obligates you to think big picture to capture movement. Yes, so Mamba, how dare you, Mamba? Mamba's a mentee. He has the answer, but he's right. So Mamba's correct. The reason for the time duration is not this on the left. Although as fun as it might be to be a vengeful instructor on a bad day to say, okay, everyone, I've really had it with you. We're gonna do 10-second gestures, right? That's not the purpose. I think I have used that before, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is really to have you go under the challenge of thinking in terms of priority. Now, if you've seen our pizza video, our YouTube session, probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago, maybe a little longer, the pizza is there to represent hierarchy, right? That we have a pie. And if I want to get to the 1/8 of a pie, I'm not going to cut for the 1 slice. I'm going to cut in halves and then quarters and then eighths and then get the slice out. And that is prioritization thinking, right? What is the main idea? Well, if we follow Google, right? And this part I agree with, I think it's about, you know, going after an action. Then if you have a gesture drawing and you have a minute, chances are you're not going to have time to draw the ear. And I said, I want you to get the full body. Your job in that 1 minute is to at least give me some information about the feet, the legs, the arms, the torso, the hands, and the head and neck. How are you going to do it, right? How do you do that, right? That's a pretty interesting challenge, right? In 1 minute to try to take all of that on. So be aware if any of us, Matunjay Swenley or I, say, hey, we really want you to do 30-second or 1-minute drawings, it's not for the sake of stress. It's because we're making sure you don't do what you should not be doing, or you're not straying from the thoughts we want you to stay on. And we're there to help you, right? Because we're saying, here's what we want you to think about. But what you don't think about is detrimental, right? Because it's a waste of time, right? It is a waste of time, and time is important to all of us, right? Now, there are times where I have students draw gesture drawings and I go, you know what, take 2 minutes, take 5 minutes, like as long as you want, because I can feel that they are getting stressed. It's causing them more stress than it is good. So I'll back off on that. But as soon as I see them going into sort of a lack of hierarchy, I'll be like, look what you're doing. Either we get the clock back in here, right? Or you learn how to stay on track, right? With what your priorities are, all right? Because you're losing the priorities. So Mamba Pen says, but when I try to draw, I always say, okay, 30 seconds and the timer ended. Let's see, 30 seconds. And the timer ended up ringing 3 to 4 times when I considered done the quick drawing. It's so abstract, the 30 seconds for me, that it's not done, and I have to allow myself more time. Maybe we can talk about that. Yeah, what's happening is either you are still getting caught up in stuff that you're making more important than really needs to be. Part of it is practice, you know? To me, martial arts steps in here again, because you know, you learn these martial arts and maybe you're not under the stress of time at the beginning. You do things slowly to get all of the motion down, right? To understand it. And then you go in for a competition and you have an opponent and you don't have time to go, oh, I'm supposed to move like this now. Like you just have to react, right? So to me, the 30-second, 1 minute is like getting in the ring. It's like, okay, I've done all this practice. You know, even 20-minute poses, like you've learned 20s, right? You've been doing, maybe you've been with me for a while. Now you're doing 10-minute poses, 15, 20-minute, 1-hour drawings. And then I'm like, you know what? I think we should go back to 30s. And you're like, what are you, crazy? Like, we can't do 30 seconds. No, now is the time to do 30s. Let's take everything you learned, throw you in the ring, see what happens, right? Let's see how you can respond and make the most important decisions as fast as possible with all the information that you have, right? Let's see, wait, is there a pizza going? Yes, there is a pizza party every Friday. Come on. I'm learning more and more for forced books. Yeah, don't torture yourself with the short poses. It's supposed to be fun. Exactly. As Gerardo said, I do think it's supposed to be a fun challenge, right? I often end up with soft touch light drawing line without life. You know, one of the arguments I get about the 30-second to 1 minute is, Mike, you're asking me to soft touch and I'm supposed to do something 30 seconds to 1 minute, which means I get nothing done. That's true. I think that you can only soft touch so much because you're burning out time, right? The clock's ticking. And if you soft touch on just like a back for 30 seconds and time's up, no good. So you have to make much more immediate decisions. You don't have as much opportunity to soft touch as you would on a longer pose. But you know what, if you're soft touching for the right reasons and it takes you 3 to 5 minutes and you were a student of mine, I'd say, hey, that's fine. Go right ahead. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You know, it's okay if we go a little longer. It's okay to give you the time, you know. The short ones are the most fun. Have to study more blank contour. Can you guys email me some pizza? I know. One day I'm going to come in here and I'm going to be eating in the meeting. All 3 of us have some pizza with us. All right. Quick gestures can be fun, like a puzzle to figure out the big picture in a short time. I use your method and Michael Hampton method to draw gesture. Yeah, it's a good combo. Hampton's a little bit more about construction than I am. And I think I focus a little bit more on what we're talking about today, but Hampton's works pretty good. First makes you, this first makes you super dynamic. Yes. All right. So that's from Matunjay. So let's get back to Photoshop. Okay. So in closing, the point is not stress. The point is thinking. And through training, you get better at how to think hierarchically. Okay. And that's what the pizza represents. Next time you eat pizza, go hierarchy. I got to remember how this pie was split, right? And my thinking is going to be like that. Okay. So let's move on. This is super important. And this kind of leads back to the definition part. What is your goal while drawing the model, right? Why are you drawing the model? What is the point in the first place? And this is everything. This is literally everything, okay? Are you there? If you're, if I said to you, hey, and we had an open drawing session, you're all sitting down and drawing, and I said, you had 20 minutes to draw this model. And I walked around the room. Some students are gonna say, I love light and shadow, right? And I can tell that by looking at their work because they're gonna be dealing with rendering, right? There's gonna be gradation and tone. It could be for some students, they're tracing the contour. They just wanna see like the shape of the body, right? The overall shape. Some students are gonna go in there and they're gonna construct the geometry, right? And I mean tubes, boxes, so on. Some students go right after the anatomy, right? They just go in there and they start going, here's the deltoid, here's the pecs, right? They just draw the anatomy. Some students do, what I've seen is they scribble, right? Like just fast, scribbly, and when I talk to them, it's about like, I'm trying to just let go. And I try to use gesture drawing or especially shorter poses in a way to let go, right? Or to lay in the action. So if we take the time restraint thing or constraint off the table, let's say this is not about time, okay? Let's say it's not about time. It's really more about action, right? And you can spend more time on drawing, but keep action going. Then that would actually mean that we could say all force drawings are actually gesture drawings. Because if my goal is to keep the drawing alive and full of action and life and rhythm and force, well, then it doesn't matter if my drawing is 20 minutes long or if it's 30 seconds long. It is still a gesture drawing, right? Now, I'm not saying that the time thing is not part of the definition, but I'm saying, you know what, I'm willing to debate that. I'm willing to have a conversation about that. Because I think, I was sitting down yesterday evening and today mulling over all of this. And when I think of someone just saying a gesture, well, that is just about a movement. Why can't a 30 or 20-minute drawing be a gesture drawing, right? I think the reason normally it's not defined that way is because most teachers and most artists, when they put more time into their work, they bog it down, right? They add information to it that kills the gesture, right? It kills the story, the flow, the rhythm in that figure drawing. But if you can keep it alive, then I say, you know what, you're still drawing a gesture drawing, right? So let's see, where does that take us? So for me, then, that is the point of this, the goal that I'm after, right? And the force audience is after, as force artists, what we're after is to draw with the intention to capture the action, right? Which comes from the rhythms of the figure, which, as we know, come from gravity and the function of the pose and so on and so on and so on, right? It's a whole domino effect of information. But that is what we teach here. We are always trying to get you guys to understand this intention of force. Even when we're talking about structure, structure is important. You got to know perspective and form, and we teach all that. It's not like we ignore that. I think that's extremely important. I think it's 1/3 of the skills of learning how to draw well. But I want all of you to be aware, when you go draw, it doesn't matter if you got a 2-minute pose you set yourself up for, 30 seconds or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Be aware of your intention. Be aware of what you actually are thinking about when you're drawing. And is your intention to get action out of it? Is it to find a rhythm in the model, right? And that's that abstraction which somebody mentioned earlier, right? Malcolm says that's a great analogy and comparison. As a practitioner of Muay Thai, yeah, I can see many comparisons between gesture drawing and martial arts and gesture, right? It has to become almost subconscious process where there's less thinking, more flow. Yeah, it takes time, to Malcolm's point, it takes time to make this natural, right? Some people can slip right in, some people it takes longer. I think it's possible for anyone to get to a place where they can start to see and understand flow. Don't trace, copy, observing, and analyzing. Yes, my goal is to get the big shoulder, just one arm with all the drawings. Right. What Mamba is talking about, sometimes I joke around, some students even be like, man, my shoulder is sore. I drew for 3 hours yesterday, and my goal is to create an army of people with just asymmetrical, anatomy, right? We'll find out very quickly if you're lefty or righty, because you'll be walking around with a giant deltoid. It's like Hellboy or something, like one giant hand, forearm, and so on. After 30 seconds or 1 minute of force drawing, how do you keep it fluid or with a sense of movement where you progress in your drawing like 50? Well, Mamba's Mamba's supporting today. Thank you for the good questions. Yeah, how do you do that? So before I answer that, I'm going to get to that. That's a great question. Let's just take a look at some stuff that I grabbed from the internet and from my own personal work. I found this in my research today. I think this is from Nicolaides, if I'm not mistaken. A gesture drawing is like scribbling rather than like printing carefully. Think more of the meaning than of the way things look. Kind of interesting, right? I am kind of really intrigued by this sentence, because I strongly disagree with parts of it and I very strongly agree with other parts of it, all in one little sentence, right? So it says a gesture drawing is like scribbling. What does that mean, right? A gesture drawing is like scribbling. No, it's not. It's not like scribbling, because scribbling to me is just scribbling. It's meaningless. It has no meaning. To me, gesture drawing is we're trying to, in a focused manner, go after an intention, and the intention is force and rhythm, and that helps us create the action of the body. Now, what I love about the idea of scribbling is better that than as was written here. It's not like printing carefully. And I think carefully is really the key word there. We could put anything in front of carefully. I could say drawing carefully. It's not like drawing carefully, right? So let's make it simpler, right? A gesture drawing is like drawing scribbles more than it is drawing carefully. I guess if I had to push towards one or the other, I'd rather have you be a scribbler than be really careful, especially at the beginning. A majority of the students, when they come to drawingforce.com and they learn how to draw with force, what happens is they come in trying to draw carefully. I've been there. That's how I started as well. You're trying to create a nice piece of art. It pushes for carefulness. I'd rather have you loosen up. I much rather have somebody come in and scribble, because I can teach them out of their relaxed state how to get into a flow state with the rhythm of the body than someone who's scared because they're careful. So I agree with that in that way. It says, think more of the meaning than of the way the thing looks. I think that's actually an interesting statement. It's, again, I agree and disagree. I agree in that I think it's really important to go after the meaning, and that's so broad, right? But I'm gonna put some definition in that. To me, the meaning is sort of like the force. Some artists or teachers will say the spirit of the pose, right? It's just so ambiguous and so vague. So I try to make that more clear to you guys and say, the meaning of it is the gesture of it, which is us trying to understand its forces and rhythms. And if we can get those right, we will get the meaning, we will capture the spirit. What I like about that, though, also is if you have a sense of going after some meaning, that there's a story, there's something you're after, I think that's great. I think it's really great to say, here's my goal. This person feels like they're striding forward confidently. It's almost like the leader of a marching band, right? I've got an idea. You see, that's an idea for me to go after. That is the meaning of this one for me. And by the way, we do this in mentorship as well. I have students actually write down, who is this? What are they doing? Where are they? Is there a metaphor that you want to use here, right? So it gives it meaning, right? Instead of just drawing the body. Now, it says, think more of the meaning than the way the thing looks. We can't ignore the way it looks, though. I don't want the way things look to push into copying, especially too early on, because that's where the carefulness comes in, right? But we want to learn from what things look like. We want to go beyond, I guess, what things look like by understanding what they're doing, okay? So super, super important. Oh, thank you, Dylan. Can you sign up for mentorship if you live in Europe? Yes, of course. God, I'd say half of my students are in Europe. In fact, today I taught someone this morning alone. Well, today was Dubai, California, and New York City. And last night was South Korea. The night before that was Australia, Italy, and England. So most definitely, you can be anywhere on the planet, and we are more than happy to help you. So yes, definitely, Dylan. And thank you for the donation. I really appreciate it. So, God, look, we just went through this little sentence. You realize how weighted it is, right? If you really start digging into what somebody's saying and like, do you agree or disagree? I can talk about this all day long, quite frankly, this one little phrase here. I think it's saying a lot of things, and man, and they're dialectical to one another, opposite to one another. So interesting. It's kind of really blew my mind as to how deep this little phrase is, and credit to the author for it. I think even just saying that in that way. So here's two hand drawings, right? Gesture doesn't have to be just the body, right? The whole body is in motion. And I happened to find these drawings of hands, and I thought, well, these are interesting to bring in. Are these gesture drawings, right? I don't know, right? Well, if I said it was about action, I don't think these are about action. The left one is scribbly in a curly kind of way, round way, and the other one is scribbly based on angles. You see? Is either one of them showing me that the action of this is a hand making a fist, and I can feel that action, that it's clear and I can get it? And I say clear like the understanding of that idea is there. No, I would say no. I could just barely make out the hands, which means also this person doesn't know how to get to the guts of, this is the idea I'm after. Right now, their idea is a noun. You see, the idea is fist or closed hand, not like clenching fist. Very, very different. All of a sudden, totally different concept, right? It's a big deal. I can't reiterate enough to you guys how important it is what you are thinking about, right? So clenched fist is very different than just like a hand that's closed and I'm just drawing this hand. And that's what's happening here. I do like the looseness again. I think loose is better than tight. So I definitely appreciate that in both of these. Either one of these students, I could teach this. I could teach them pretty quickly out of this and say, hey, stay loose, but I'm going to have you focus on certain things and we can come out of this pretty darn quickly. This was like a hyper neat scare drawing or a little scratchy one. It's more psychologically difficult to get out of, right? Okay. This is Bern Hogarth, right? Some cool hand drawings. Now, I would say, first of all, as soon as I see grayscale, I go, oh, it's not just a line drawing anymore, it's render, which kind of started making me think about, could you do a gesture render? If gesture is about action, maybe you could render something in a way that holds on to action. Could you do gesture painting? Yeah, I think so. I think there are paintings that are gestural. Michelangelo would be a great example, right? There are paintings that are full of gesture. Could you sculpt gesture? Most definitely. Is it taking you 2 minutes? No. You see, so I don't know how important the time restraint thing is outside of what I shared with you today, which is I think time is important to really just help you prioritize. And if you go out there and you're doing longer poses, you're doing studies, again, it's a way of getting into the ring, right? It's like, let me test myself out, see if I could stay on point, right? I want to stay on target. I want to be aware of priority, right? Okay, I'm almost done with my segment. So these are drawings of Mrityunjay's, right? Mrityunjay and I in the background have been talking about a book that would have a lot of hand drawing in it. And he's been doing the drawing. I have fortunately just been able to fall witness to like his amazing skill, right? And I put these next to each other because I want you to see on the left is what we thought maybe a gesture drawing was, right? Before we started today. That's a short drawing, right? It didn't take as long as the one on the right. But I would argue they're both gesture drawings, right? Because both of them have action, right? They both have force, they both have rhythm. The one on the right has more time obviously put into it because there's more form and sculpting, but it doesn't matter. The hand is fully alive, it's fully active, it's flowing from one place to another. And what you see on the left one is inside of the one that's on the right, right? And the challenge is, can you build that kind of skeleton of force and rhythm? And can you add all this other stuff on top of it and still keep it going, right? It's a tricky space. And again, that's what we're here to help you guys do, right? I brought in some of my own drawings. Ignore all the stuff, all the text around them. It's because these were Instagram posts. These are drawings I did a few years back in Germany at a workshop in Cologne. I remember this day very clearly because it was hot. School was awesome, but it was hot that day. And the paper they gave me was about 3 feet tall. So these are very big drawings. This is larger than 18 by 24, right? And these are 1 minute, okay? So just imagine how fast I had to be moving to cover 3 feet of space and get this much information, right? I was sweating. This made me sweat. This is like a workout. Because I was just like, oh my God, it's going like this, it's going like this. And you can see how fast I'm drawing the forms and the forces. There's a little bit of shape going on in here. I want you to see that it's possible to get this much information, even in a very large drawing, down in under a minute. And it's only happening because I'm going through a very clear process of what I'm trying to obtain, of what my intention is. The intention is driving the ability to get a lot done. Think about it. If you know what you have to do, it usually doesn't take that long to do whatever that action is. The part that usually takes time is figuring things out. Doing the thing doesn't take that long. I'm not saying everything. Some things, it could be surgery that's 8 hours long, right? But most things don't take that long. It's usually planning that takes a while. It's learning that takes a while. Execution here, 1 minute. I could do these in 1 minute because of 25 years of executing and learning, right? So now I can go in the ring and know in 1 minute I can get this much done, right? I can trust that I'm going to respond well, right? So there's those two. And then last but not least is this one. This was also from that same day in Germany. I really like this one because I like the pull of the shoulder across with this S torso into the hip, right? You really feel the S pull across there, right? Hopefully that'll make it easier to see. And you can see I use the pectoralis to help as part of the wrapping, right? You could see the ellipses. I call this wrapping. I wrapped around the body, and I use the edge of the pecs, the pectoralis muscle, to wrap around as well. And then that pulls in, of course, underneath the deltoid. You can see one leg's going one way, one leg's going the other. I was drawing so fast here. This is when you know that I'm under under stress, right? Is instead of wrapping like this, I didn't have the time to do a full ellipse. Look what's going on right here. I was going like this. I'm doing half ellipses, right? That's how fast I was working, because I was like, I'm trying to get those curves, and I didn't even go all the way around. I went half and back down, half and back down, half, 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 just to kind of create enough tunnel to push the leg down in one direction, okay? So that's when, if you ever see that in one of my drawings, damn, you must have been going really quick. Here, I almost just like corkscrewed it just to go through there quickly. So I was like that, right? So that's me moving very quickly. All right, so to end my segment, these are 1 minute. This is from the first book. Use what you know. So the last thing I want to kind of answer here is, well, like, what am I supposed to put into a shorter gesture drawing, right? Let's say a 30-second or a 1 minute gesture drawing. You use what you know at that time. If you've only learned how to kick, then you're practicing kicking in 1 minute. If you've only learned how to draw with force, right? And that's what we've taught you up to that point, just put in force. Force will lead to form, and we will teach you form. And then you try to bring force and form into your 1 minute, right? Into the ring. Once you get to shape, you do force, form, and shape. You try to bring all those in. Once you learn anatomy, you try to bring that in, right? So every time you learn a new skill, you try to bring it into the ring with you. These drawings on the right, you'll notice, actually have all 4 things in them. There's force in them, right? You can see the rhythms and fluidity in these figures. There's form. There's just enough like structure going on to tell what's in front, what's in back. You can see on this hip over here, there's a little bit of wrapping going on over there, right? You can see that little angle on the back of the knee. Notice I threw that in there. This is 1 minute. Remember, I had to say, oh, this is going to be flat if I don't do that, right? So I was like, boom, boom, 2 lines on the back to go, it's going away. It's very shaped out. To me, shape is the efficiency of bringing force and form together. So these are very shape-driven drawings. And there's a little bit of anatomy, enough of her chest, her belly button, the head, fingers, like there's her feet, right? Those like tiny nuances of anatomy to just give it enough in 1 minute to clarify what's going on, okay? So I'm going to do a really quick, we're going to share with you today one of the exercises in the books and in the site, which is the 4-line challenge. In fact, I don't use it that often anymore, and I'm thinking of trying to actually even bring it back into mentoring. The idea is, can you draw the whole figure in 4 lines? Or really what it means is 4 paths. So this is a path, right? We have this winding rhythmic road. It's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, right? So can we do that, right? So I just grabbed a photograph here. And normally when learning force, you know, we're thinking about those rhythms, right? So when I look at this model, I'm aware of this to this, right? And this leg, I would say, is going all the way down like this, right? And then this leg's like this to this to this, right? So here's, I'm going to be quick about this, as you can see. All right, so here's like my gesture of force of this model. That took me probably less than 30 seconds. It's probably more like about 18 seconds if I had to guess. So what it means to do the pathway idea is to recognize, wow, this connects up so much that I might be able to get 4 paths to put this whole thing together. So I started up here, right? So this is one path. I can come through here, up and around, over and down and in. That is number 1. That is one path. Actually, now let me continue that path. It also goes here. It goes to the back of the arm, hits the inverted elbow, comes back out to the forearm, up to the hand and into the fingers. Okay, that is all one path. So you know, imagine that, right? Look, I just got from the fingertips to the foot on one sinewy rhythmic road, right? What did I not get so far? Well, I got to hook up this other leg. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, I need to get this leg. This leg's like this. It's going to get to the foot and the ball of the foot. Okay, that's fair. Number 2. I'm kind of stuck after that because I get onto the first path, right? So that's the second path. Third path on this one would be the neck and head, right? It's like this. I don't need a 4th. Well, I could add it if I want to get picky here. The 4th one is normally the other arm. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you can get both arms as one path. Here, I was able to get the back and the edge of his deltoid into the arm with the rest of the body. So I was able to get that all into one. But if I wanted to add the other arm, I'd say, well, and there's one more right here. There's just a little thing of force going on back there. So there are my 4 paths in the figure. This is the main actions, right? These are the main rhythms. This is how stuff's happening. It's almost like having a wireframe version of the gesture of the body. And then everything gets built on this. This at least also gives you something to go after, right? If you start seeing those rhythms, what you're trying to do is understand how this stuff's connected. Remember before we talked about scribble, I could sit here and scribble. Right? It's like, look, here's my gesture drawing. Right? And I see this. I've been to schools where this is what's taught. Right? It's like, look, gesture. Wow, I did it. 10-second drawing. Right? But what did I do? I mean, it allowed me to not get over cautious. I did feel that. I felt like, okay, it's kind of cool. I can just like run around on the piece of paper, but I kind of went after angles a little bit and I just kind of roughed them in. That's, if my head was anywhere, that's where it was. I was like, let me get these angles right. I kind of sketched them in, I doodled them in, and that's it. You know, this, although it doesn't look like much, I have to say, looking at it, is so much more beneficial because I had to really figure my way through this. And it's not going to be easy at the beginning necessarily, right? Because there's a lot of stuff to figure out. But in time, you're going to be a black belt. You're going to get into that ring. You're going to know exactly how to respond. You're going to know how to do it in 30 seconds and be able to turn out an amazing gesture drawing. Okay. All right. So I'm going to close with that. It took up a lot of time today. I'm going to hand it over to Matunje, and he is going to, he's got, each one of you guys are going to have about 7 minutes to draw. So they're going to do a little bit of gesture drawing and then try to find that four line idea as well. And then I'll try running that chat. All right, let me give you the power of the gods here.
If I may add something in the meantime, Mike, like
please,
for someone who's been practicing gesture drawing for years, like one thing I've noticed is if there is no understanding, then the act is pointless. You know, like I practiced gesture drawing for years. And then when doing character designs, I was still struggling with posing characters believably, you know, and I was like, why is that? And that is actually what led me to Force, you know. I was like, okay, now I finally understand what I'm doing, which allows me to bring that understanding to my own characters and figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the intention, right? Otherwise, you go out into the world not knowing why you're doing what you're doing, which means you end up usually doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for adding that. I think that's really, really important. Cool. All right, let's see. Swanley co-host and Mrityunjay co-host. All right, so Mrityunjay, you should have power. Power.
I still don't have it. Oh, strange.
You forgot to say I have the power, and you're supposed to raise your hand, and and I have to have lightning strike you from from above. Let's see. The power of Grayskull. All right. All right, there you go.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait a second.
Are there supposed to be two of you?
Yeah,
No,
no, there's only one.
today.
No twins today. The other guy's not here today. He's off getting pizza for the rest of us.
All right, so let's start with this one. You know, very cool photograph. So gesture. So I'm gonna be doing like a gesture. You know, out of this like very quickly, and we can just like jump onto finding that 4-line path out of this, right? Keep in mind this hierarchy pyramid. By the way, we represent hierarchy with the pyramid, and at the top, this basically represents a whole pose. By the way, right? So at the top of the pyramid, the most important ideas, right? And you're basically like prioritizing your ideas, right? So the most of the time you're gonna be feeling that the torso is what you want to go for, right? And that's what I did. You know? That's what I do like most of the time. You know, I go for the torso, right, as my main path. Right. So let's start with it. You know, so I'm just gonna do like a very quick one here, right? Let's see if I can. Okay, let's see this. He's like holding up his he's basically gripping his one arm here, right? Like that. Okay, shorten it up. Okay, this leg's coming out, you know. Very simple rhythms, you know, very gestural. So it's coming out, so see just what I did there, right? Like that. And this leg is stretching up, right? Like that. This leg is going back. It gives me like quick forms, right? So something like this. And the neck, you know, finally the neck and the head. All right. So something like this, you know. So that's my quick gesture. Now we can like pull that 4-line path out of this, right? So let's keep it here. We'll try to like copy that. Okay, make it shorter, and let's see like how that 4-line is actually working on this one. So let's do it with the red color here. All right, so that's what I said. You know, keep hierarchy in mind. Always try. Not always, I would say, but most of the time you'll feel that the torso is your main focus. You know, because that's a big mass, right? And you just have to attach limbs. That's how it teaches. Just when you get the torso right, and the arms and the legs are like much easier to attach. So let's start from here. Okay, let's start from here, like this point in here. I'm coming off from this, like he's stretching this way out, right? So I'm gonna come off this path. I'm gonna go around the pelvis like this, okay? And see, again, this is considered as one path, you know, all of a sudden. So I'm connecting basically the top, one of the shoulders all the way to the foot down there, right? Like that, see? So that is still considered as one line because that is, again, this road, right? Now, what I can even hook up his left arm, you know, and a hand, even in this one idea. So watch as I do this. I'm coming off from here and then going into hand. So see, this is still like one line, okay? 4-line exercise doesn't mean that you have to like do 4 lines. Like, I mean, it could be less than that, right? But don't go more over than that, right? So it could be less. And I now this is my first one. Now I can come off and do my second one, which is basically this leg here, right? So this is still, right? One of the legs, okay? So this is my second path here. The third could be, yeah, the third would be my, obviously the head and the neck, and I can say that, okay, the other arm is like the second one or the third one or whatever, right? So I can go with this.
Yeah,
Like,
you could make that arm, yeah, like you just did. I would say that arm is still even part of number one, like you just did. You could still get yourself there off the same path, Yeah.
yeah, we can do that
And
because
really,
that's the same direction, right? Almost the same direction.
yeah.
You can do that. And the neck and the head. So I can come off from here and say, oh, this is my like small path just to get into the main center there. Okay. So that's the 4 line, right? So see, and all these things, what I just add is this, I added some form in there for the legs. And basically there's nothing else, out of this, there's nothing else in this gesture which is making it different, all of these rhythms are basically the same here. Okay. All right, let's try to do another one really quick. Yeah, so here's one. Okay. So starting off from the torso again, right? Let's do like again like a really quick one. He's bending this way, right? I'm actually caring about a squash, right? Which is happening here. I had a nasty habit of drawing like big, so I have to constantly reset that. There you go. So really quick like this. This leg is going a little bit into depth, so like that. Yeah, so something like this. This angle is the one you like in this figure you have to like be really careful of. The hand goes here, the other hand goes onto his other shoulder, and there's my neck. Okay, so yeah, really quick one. And let's try to duplicate that and try to find the 4-line, thing on this one. Okay, so as you just may have guessed, by now, I'm just gonna start up the same path, from the shoulder, down all the way down to here, around the pelvis, like that, just making a turn and continuing to the leg. Okay, so that's my first. And obviously forget the foot there, so that's also a part of it. The second pad goes to the other leg, so something like this, to the foot, right down there. That's again the second pad here. This is the first one. Now let's try to take paint, right? And this is again, the hand is the part of the first one again, so okay. And again, this hand, all of a sudden, all the things start to get, like compressed, like into really big ideas, right? What I'm really focusing on the big ideas. Okay. So as you can see, this arm is also hooking up from the same path here. So you can say, oh, that's also like one line, so here we are just using 3 rhythms. It's like everything hooks up other than the leg, and one is there just for the head and the neck. Okay, like that. And this is coming off from here, still. So yeah, so that's a 4-liner, right? So what can I say? Focus on the big ideas. Always remember that pyramid thing, right? And this represents the entire pose. Top is always the big idea, and then you're prioritizing your waist down. Okay. All right. Hand it over to Swanley so he doesn't lose all of his time. So thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed my part.
Thanks, Matunjay. Yeah, I think I would just add one thing to what Matunjay was finally alluding to there, which is in the end, the goal is that everything connects, right? And if we're saying we can get down to 4 lines, really in the end, I don't know if I'd say it's one line, but the idea is to understand it all becomes like one idea, right? One whole idea, and that's a huge part of what we're trying to teach.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And in light of that, let's see like how long of a path I can create without like breaking like the anatomical function of the figure. So You see the torso right here. This is one path, and I want to continue this path all the way down into this leg. And even here, I could go around that knee joint, and here we start to push in and connect to the foot. So notice this one path all the way around, So this is one. And let's see, I think to get to the other leg, I would have to, I can go around, but the thigh comes from here. So let's say this is number 2. Now we push out, push down into that foot. That's number 2. And of course, he's standing on this box right here. So we have 1 from the torso all the way into the strong leg. We have 2 for the bent leg. And let's see. So we can connect from the torso into this arm. And this could be, it's actually like one big idea all the way into that fist. And actually I can extend this and connect it to the other arm. Now all the way here. And then for the last one, we have the head and neck. Now pointing out like that. So again, the goal of the exercise is to be able to look at a figure and see the big picture. How does this work as a whole, instead of getting caught up into the parts. So this is one. Let's do another one. Let's see. Actually, let's pick. Let's go to this one. All right, so again, I usually start with the torso. So this is a C curve. So this also gives us like one path. This goes around, I have the compression here. So this is one. Let's see, now here it's tricky for me to connect from the torso into the thigh. So I think I would have to, unless I go this way, of course, I can do this. I can say this is how the thigh fits into the pelvis. And this looks like it's a front to back. Now into that foot. Now I can connect from the pelvis into the other thigh. Again, like you have the socket here where the thigh fits into the pelvis. So that's what I'm using as my connection. There's another front to back. Foot is like being squashed on the ground. Then we can connect from the torso into the shoulder and the arms as well, all the way down the hands and the fingers. Same on the other side. Then we can connect from the back directly into the neck and head, like hanging down here. So again, very simple, big picture thinking, seeing the big relationships of the action. See, I have 1 minute left, so let's do one last. Okay, let's see. So same here. Let's start with the torso. So this is all pushing out on that hip. Now lots of applied force pushing this out. So this will be my first path. And from here I can connect into this farther leg. It's going out, front to back. So this all one big path all the way to the toes. And then I can connect from here into the other thigh as well. Now pushing into the inner ankle, the outside foot. And I can connect from this pad all the way into the arm. With the deltoid arm is stretching. And you can see the relationship within the shoulders, like the arms work as one. It's like bending here on the thigh. And then finally we have the neck and head, on an abstract level, it's working like this, all being pushed out that way. So very simple rendition of the action. And again, it helps us understand how the body is working. This is stuff that you can bring to your imagination drawings or when posting your character designs. So a bit more, I would say, more effective for understanding than just making scribbles. So yeah, it's right on time. So yeah, hopefully this helps you guys to clarify understanding what gesture is, and what's the most effective way to approach it. Stop the share.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Swenley.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Before we leave, what all this led me to thinking about is, another simple way to address everything that we've talked about today is, you've got the torso, and you've got two legs and arms, right, and a neck and a head, right, and the problem is seeing these things as pieces. What we're trying to have you do is understand that they're all connected. It's a non-breakable chain of events that happens in the body. So this four-line idea is there to support you in trying to understand the whole of this, right? Not that it's an arm or a leg or so on. So an easy thing for you to leave here with today is just the four-line exercise in general. Another thing to keep in mind is to say, you know what? I want to understand what the torso is doing. That's an idea. I want to understand what the arms are doing, not one arm, both arms as a unit, right? So you can go like this and say, that's my second idea. My third idea is to understand the legs as a unit. That's three ideas. And then last but not least, the neck and head, right? So we've broken it down. But we've broken it down to only 4 pieces, considering how many there are, and you think about all the anatomy and bumps and everything. This is a very, 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 very simple version of the body. Can you think about that when it comes to force? Can I go in there and say, okay, well, the torso's going like this. It's a C torso, right? I want to understand what the legs are doing, right? Because the legs are holding up that torso. So I come in here and I'm like, this is a front to back. Right. And then I think about how it wraps around the pelvis, that these guys are connected. Right. And maybe this is an out and out. It's like facing towards, he's pushing his foot in. Right. And then I've got the arms. Right. And whatever is going on with this arm, right, has something to do with this arm. You see? Right. So there's a connection between them. And then last but not least, how does the neck and head rhythmically come out of this? You see, even that is, I think, a great thing to leave today with, is an understanding of, okay, let me see as arms as a whole, the torso as a whole, legs as a whole. Because the legs, right, they're creating a triangle here to hold up the body, right? The neck and head are sticking out to create this like counterbalance to the body. The arms are working together. This is a great place to get to. If you can get even here, this is pretty darn amazing, to see these systems. As you get better at it, you'll start to see the system of the arms against the system of the legs. How do they relate to one another in a pose, right? That's another level of hierarchy going up the pyramid, okay? So in closing, try to see the human body as big as possible. Maybe gesture isn't so much about timing. Timing is there for you to get into the ring and practice, right? Practice what you've been learning. It's not about stress, it's about prioritizing. And that we're trying to see the quote unquote action, which in our world is you're trying to find force, right? You're trying to find force in your drawing. I think anything gestural has force in it. Doesn't matter if it's a 30-second drawing or if it's a 5-hour drawing. gets harder the longer you go, because the more detail you put onto something, the more burdened it gets. So you really got to know what you're doing to not kill the gesture of it, right? And hopefully we've given you some tools today to try and understand that. Whew. All right, that's it, everyone. I will see you next week. Matunjay and Swenley, I will see you guys next week. We wish all of you an awesome weekend, and we will see you in 7 days for number 76, right? Take care. Thanks again, Swenley and Matunjay, for all your help today. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Take care.